On a scorching summer afternoon, a wealthy woman in a wheelchair was abandoned in the middle of a vast, sweltering field. Strangely, the one who saved her life was neither a doctor nor a bodyguard, but a poor little girl who had only a few drops of water left, yet chose to share them. Welcome back to the channel A Quiet Corner of the Heart. If this is your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications to support more meaningful stories like this. The story begins in a bustling city where people often spoke the name Naren as a symbol of a strong, self-made woman. From nothing, she built a massive real estate empire, owning projects worth billions. At luxurious parties, she was seen as elegant, confident, and powerful, a brilliant businesswoman with a proud smile. But few knew that behind the dazzling lights was a life filled with pain and deep loneliness. After a tragic accident a year ago, Naren became bound to a cold wheelchair. That fall didn't just take away the feeling in her legs, it also shattered her family relationships. Her husband, Pakin, slowly distanced himself, while her mother-in-law, Vipa, saw her as a burden, staying only because of Naren's immense wealth. In her lonely days, sitting alone in a large, empty room, Naren often thought back to her difficult past. She had once been a poor girl from the countryside, holding only a vocational certificate and facing constant discrimination when she arrived in the big city. She worked countless jobs, selling goods at markets, serving coffee in cafes, and eventually becoming a secretary at a small company, saving every penny she could. With intelligence, courage, and sometimes bold risk-taking, she stepped into the real estate world, while others failed to see its potential. Over time, wealth poured in, and she built a powerful company, admired by many. Yet, even at the peak of her success, Naren still longed for something missing deep within her heart. She longed for what could truly be called a warm, loving family. That was why she chose Pakin, a handsome, well-educated man, to be her husband, hoping he would become her emotional refuge. But that fragile happiness did not last long. A sudden accident during a business trip left Naren permanently disabled. From that moment on, the way Pakin looked at her began to change. The warmth and tenderness in his eyes slowly faded, replaced by cold indifference. In public, he still appeared gentle and caring, but at home he grew distant, sometimes even openly disrespectful. As for Vipa, Naren's mother-in-law, she spoke bluntly without any regard for Naren's feelings. "What's the point of a crippled woman running a company? Just hand it over to your husband. Why are you still holding on to it?" Her words cut deep into Naren's heart like a knife, yet she remained silent because she knew better than anyone, if she let go, she would lose everything. One day, Pakin suddenly made a suggestion. "My dear, how about we go on a business trip for 2 or 3 days? An important partner wants to meet us in person. I think you should come along to build their confidence." Hearing this, Naren showed a rare smile. It had been a long time since she had heard Pakin speak about working together again. Inside, she felt both excited and hopeful, believing this might be a chance to mend their relationship and prove to everyone that she was still strong enough to lead the company. She agreed and began preparing for the trip, never imagining this journey would become a turning point leading to something terrifying. The luxury car left the capital, heading onto a long, endless highway. The sun blazed overhead, and the hot wind struck the windows like waves of fire. Naren sat quietly in the back seat, watching her husband drive in silence. Beside him, Vipa sat in the front passenger seat, speaking sweetly without pause. "Naren, dear, try to rest. When we arrive, the business partners will surely be delighted to meet you," she said, fanning herself with a gentle smile. But that smile carried something unsettling, something impossible to read, and deep down, Naren began to feel it too. She felt that something was not right, but tried to calm herself. After several hours, the car turned onto a rough dirt road that led deep into a vast sandy area. Naren frowned. "Why are we going this way?" she asked. Puckin replied casually, "It's a shortcut, my dear, don't worry." But just a few minutes later, the car suddenly stopped in the middle of an open, scorching field. There wasn't even a single tree to provide shade. Puckin pretended to sound concerned. "The car seems to have a problem. I'll go find someone to help. You wait here." Before Naren could respond, both he and his mother stepped out of the car. Just before leaving, Puckin cast her a cold, unreadable glance. Her wheelchair was placed in the middle of the vast sandy land, while the figures of her husband and mother-in-law slowly grew smaller until they disappeared completely. Naren sat there, sweat pouring down her back. A wave of unease crashed over her like a tsunami. She called out her husband's name, called for her mother-in-law, but the only response was the burning wind striking her face. In that instant, she understood. She had been abandoned. The blazing sun felt as if it would burn her alive. The sand was so hot it seemed to pierce through her shoes, reaching the numb soles of her feet. Her throat went dry, her lips cracked, and the harsh sunlight made her eyes ache. Everything around her blurred. All she could hear was the rapid pounding of her heart and the suffocating feeling in her chest. A chilling thought crossed her mind. They left me here on purpose. Her heart ached, not from the heat, but from the betrayal of those closest to her. Desperately, she reached for her bag, hoping to find a bottle of water or her phone, but inside there were only a few trivial items. No water, not even a single drop. Panic set in. She suddenly remembered that before leaving the house, Vipa had packed her bag. It was clear now. She had deliberately removed everything essential. Her phone was there, but when she turned it on, there was barely any signal. In that empty wasteland, Naren tried to make a call, but nothing worked. Amid the scorching sand dunes, the silence felt suffocating. At first, she tried to comfort herself, thinking that Puckin would come back. Maybe the car had really broken down. Maybe they had gone to get help. But as each minute passed, her hope slowly faded. The car was nowhere to be seen at the edge of the horizon. There was no sign that they would return. Her chest felt tight, as if it were being crushed. She looked up at the sky. The blazing sunlight pierced her eyes, and tears streamed down her face. It was the first time in years that a strong woman like her cried uncontrollably. A deep, instinctive fear began to rise. She imagined herself collapsing there, her body buried beneath the sand, unseen, unknown, forgotten by everyone. Memories flooded back. The day her mother brought her to the city, telling her, "Live your life with pride." The day she signed her first contract, her hands trembling yet smiling through tears. The day she met Puckin, when her heart believed in love for the very first time. She looked at her own hands, hands that had once signed billion-dollar deals, hands that had been held with respect by so many. Now they trembled, clinging only to the armrests of her wheelchair. At that moment, she asked herself, what use are wealth and power when your own family makes you feel like you don't belong? That question cut deeper than her thirst, tightening her chest with unbearable pain. But Naren was not someone who gave up easily. From deep within her, the instinct to survive ignited. She began scanning her surroundings, searching for any sign of life. In the distance, she spotted a cluster of cactus bushes. Using her hands, she pushed against the sand, trying to move her wheelchair toward them. But the wheels sank into the soft sand. She lost her balance and fell forward, her knees hitting the metal frame with a sharp pain. Still, she gritted her teeth. She refused to give up. Every inch the wheelchair moved forward was a desperate struggle. Sweat poured down her body as she fought with all her strength to keep going. Sweat trickled into the wounds on her hands, stinging sharply, but Naren didn't stop. In her mind, her mother's voice echoed, "If you fall, you must get up on your own. No one else can help you." That memory became the only strength keeping her conscious. When she was just a few meters away from the cactus bushes, she stopped to catch her breath. Her chest heaved and her heart pounded as if it would burst out. But before she could reach them, her vision blurred. Her eyelids grew heavy and slowly closed. Naren collapsed forward onto the armrest of her wheelchair, silently praying, "If anyone passes by, please let me have just one sip of water, just one." In the vast emptiness, the sound of the wind whistled past her ears, almost like mocking laughter. But from afar, a small figure began to appear. A thin young girl carrying an old basket on her back and holding a small knife walked slowly across the burning sand. She bent down to cut cactus fruits and placed them into her basket. Sweat ran down her youthful face, yet her eyes reflected resilience far beyond her age. Naren could barely see, only a faint silhouette. With a hoarse, trembling voice, she called out, "Help! Please help me!" The girl paused and looked up. Her bright, innocent eyes were filled with surprise. Then she quickly ran toward her. Naren didn't know who she was, but a spark of hope lit up inside her heart. This was the moment of fate, when destiny brought together a powerful, dying billionaire and a poor little girl. A story no one could have ever expected was about to begin. The small figure came closer, becoming clearer under the blazing sun. She was a girl around 12 or 13 years old, her skin darkened by the sun, her hands rough and calloused, her clothes were old, torn, and soaked with sweat. On her back was a worn-out basket filled with fresh green cactus fruits, and in her hand she held a small, dull knife. Her unsteady steps under the scorching heat were proof of the harsh, unforgiving land she lived in. Her name was Molly. Her father had died when she was very young, after a long illness, leaving behind debts for medicine. Her mother, frail and thin, worked endlessly in sugarcane fields, from dawn till night, yet it was still never enough.